Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. I have to excuse my appearance. I've got this blanket wrapped around me. It's actually really cold in this room, and the radio's not working properly. It's really chilly outside. In fact, that's an understatement. It's been snowing today, and it's really thick snow here in Oxford. First time this year. It looks lovely to look at if you're indoors warm and you're looking out the window, but it's a bugger to work in, it really is. But anyway, I'm making this video, and I'm afraid it is a bit of a sad one. I don't like doing that, but I'm afraid you probably guessed from the title that I'm kind of on the descendant of that sine wave of moods. That's a kind of elaborate way to put it. Basically, I'm feeling a bit miserable, or to be honest, I'm feeling a bit less so now, but I was a few days ago. I mean, it's been, and I wanted to share this with you, and I wasn't going to tell you everything I'm going to tell you, but then I realised I had a pretext to do so, because someone else has said something. I'll explain. Now, first of all, I mean, I do like cheerfulness. I like optimism. I am generally an optimistic person, I believe. I have enjoyment. I make a lot of these videos. You'll find are light-hearted. I like to put fun into them. I like to put enjoyment into them. I do these things for pleasure, like the various conferences I go to and things, the videos I make. I do it because I get pleasure from it. And part of that pleasure is really the feeling that I'm doing something good. And I've always of course had this telos, which is in the name, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. That telos, that end goal, is the end of the New World Order, the exposure of this conspiracy to create the New World Order, and its exposure, which will lead to the defeat of the Illuminati who are bringing this New World Order in, and then the creation of a better world. That's always been my objective. And I've always felt, normally, well, to be honest, I don't always feel this way, but generally I always feel hopeful of that. I always feel that goal is achievable. It's something that we can accomplish. But I'll tell you what, I mean, there's been a lot of upsetting things that have happened, and a lot of it's upsetting. Dealing with conspiracies like this is upsetting. I've known a lot of people involved who have found it's really been very damaging to them. It's actually been depressing. It's led them to depression. I mean, one of the listeners in the CMR days for Panwo Radio, Critical Mass Radio days, one of the listeners committed suicide once, and we really considered the possibility that maybe we shouldn't go on. CMR eventually floundered anyway a year later, but at the time we were thinking, is this something, there's no point doing this unless we feel we're doing some good with it, and if we just give out doom and gloom, this is the effect it's going to have on people. If you just say, all these awful things are happening in the world, this New World Order and everything in it, and basically that's it, and you don't give them any hope, you don't give them any possibility of a way out, a way to put an end to all this evil, that's the result. People will become downhearted, you'll get depression, some people will take their own lives because they won't feel it's worth living. One moment, I'm just going to fill up I need some water, one moment, some drink, one sec. Sorry, just carry on while I'm doing this. I was just saying that, I'll just carry on, yeah. And that was a really awful moment for us at CMR, as you can imagine. This is a chap none of us had met. He'd not been to any of the meetups and not been to any of the conferences, but he was someone who regularly listened, and he posted in the chat box, and he didn't give any clues to how desperate he was in his situation, in his state of mind, his mental health. Oh, just wrap myself up again. God, it's cold. I think the radiator is coming on now, but God, that's one thing about this new room. It is bloody chilly in here. Now, yeah, so just got myself a drink. Cheers, guys. It's alright, it's just juice. Now, a lot of the things I deal with on Panmo Radio are fun. They're quirky. They're interesting. They're the UFO situation and things like that, and the paranormal and Minster Lovell and these other things that I've dealt with. They're interesting. They're unusual pieces of knowledge, which is pretty harmless and pretty it's just kind of like just droll and sort of innocuous, really. But once you get into the conspiracy theory world, you come across much darker information. Information relating, for instance, to institutional child abuse. And I've covered this on a Panmo Radio show recently, and that is one of the things that really made me feel pretty awful. I mean, I suppose we should take hope from the fact that so much of it is coming out now. Things which David Icke told us about a couple of decades ago, and he was laughed at and ignored, are now common knowledge. Things to do with institutional abuse at the BBC, in government, in Hollywood. This was the sort of thing that many conspiracy theorists were saying long, long ago, that this is what was happening, and we were ignored and we were ridiculed. No one's ever thanked us in the mainstream now. Now that we all know, for instance, that Edward Heath had a record, he was a former Prime Minister of Great Britain, he had a record of sexual abuse of children, and the police are now looking into it, long after the old bastard died. No one's saying thank you to people like David Icke, who actually first published accusations against Heath. I mean, honestly, the knowledge, I think, is that this is just the start. What's been exposed so far in the mainstream is just the tip of the iceberg. It is what David Icke called Jimmy Savile, for instance, the gatekeeper of the cesspit. The actual cesspit, when it is, and it will come out, it will be so awful that you'll walk down the street and you'll see people weeping. Ordinary people weep in the streets when the truth comes out about institutional child abuse. And it won't be easy. It won't be an easy recovery from that. As I said, there's going to be some very turbulent years ahead. There's going to be the most optimistic scenario I can come up with is the conspiracies are all exposed, and it's to do with 9/11 as well, to do with the UFO cover-up, free energy, things like that. I mean, the free energy thing really is quite dark, because you're talking about energy systems that could revolutionise the world and end poverty and environmental destruction, and they've been suppressed for over a century, and what is it? 2 billion odd people at least have probably died as a result, and the world's been poisoned as a result. That is dark, and that's going to come out. The truth about 9/11, and false flag terror in general, and the fact that the state culls people in vast numbers. This is going to come out, and it won't be easy to heal from this. It really won't be. But we have to do it. If we can do it, if humanity can achieve this, if you and I, human beings across the world, can get out of this cesspit, then it will be the single greatest thing humanity has ever done. I mean, discovering fire, the control of fire, inventing the wheel, nothing compared to this. This will be the greatest thing we've ever done, if we can get out this cesspit and then heal ourselves. Because the healing process, this is what my new book is going to be about. This is just a little spoiler there, a little bit of spoiler for the third book in the Roswell series, or the Disclosure series. It's going to be about this healing process, because it won't be easy. Karma is a bitch. But what if it doesn't even? What if that even doesn't even happen, and the New World Order have their way? Well, we'll end up living. I don't even like to think about it. We'll end up living in a world which will not even be a world. It'll be an orbiting, lifeless prison camp with cyborgs, just a handful of cyborgs. There won't be any humans. There'll just be a handful of transhumanist cyborgs, and the reptilian elite will be walking around in their reptilian form. And it's almost beneath what I'm capable of imagining. It's you may wonder why I'm being like this, but I'm not going to put a violin soundtrack over this, don't worry. Stefan Molyneux, I know I keep coming back to him, don't I? He did a show saying we have to pace ourselves emotionally because I mean, I know he doesn't agree with what I stand for, and I don't agree with anything he stands for, but he does say some things which are very wise sometimes. Also the guy I'm going to talk about later on in the movie. But he says things like, we have to pace ourselves emotionally because a time is going to come when we're going to think all hope is lost, and we're going to have to pull ourselves up from that. We're really going to think it's all over at some point. That is actually going to happen. And it's like, and yeah, it's and then oh, I'm just gonna pause for a moment. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, now the reason why I'm a bit downhearted at the moment and feeling pessimistic rather than my usual chirpy, optimistic self, well, it's got a lot to do with bad feeling in the truth movement. Now, the truth movement is, I mean, there's a guy I know who's basically given up because of now he's a bit of a shill shamer, which is, I think, a mistake. I've done a whole video about that, so I think I might have mentioned him then. But the truth movement is in a pretty bad way at the moment. I'm just trying to. My blanket's coming apart. One moment. I'll forget it. It's in a pretty bad way at the moment, and there's several things about them that really bugged me, which is to do with my relationship with other people in the truth movement, and this seems to be universal, happening everywhere. At least I hope it is. I don't hope I'm not to be honest, I hope it is simply because I don't want it to be just me. So I'm sort of like in two minds there, but I know it is happening a lot. And there's almost infighting has reached a point where it's almost endemic. I know people who have longer block lists than they have friend lists. And Facebook seems to be, I'm not saying Facebook is the culprit, but there is something about Facebook that seems to bring out the worst in people. This didn't happen on the old forums, not like it does now. I don't know if Facebook is a cause or just simply the platform out over which general bad feeling is being presented. And if we had the old forums today, it would just be the same scenario would simply be playing out there. I'm not saying Facebook is a cause of this. It's just very, very strange that sort of thing happens. I mean, I'll give you an example. I met somebody at the last Bases conference. Bases at Black Swan, who's a nice lady, who I got on well with. It was not Daniela. It was someone else. Daniela's the one who was actually speaking. It was someone else, just someone in the audience. And we sort of got on very well. Now, there's nothing sexual here. This was a platonic relationship with this woman, although she is attractive, and well, maybe there was a bit of mutual attraction between us, but it was essentially a platonic relationship, a platonic friendship. And then she came to Oxford one day, and I took her out on a boat on the river, and it was really, really nice. And again, there was no, I didn't have any intention to become a partner of hers. She was actually, at the time, she was actually going out with another guy in the truth movement. I know at the time she was actually going out with this other guy, and we had a lovely day. I took her out on a boat and we rowed along the river. It was absolutely fantastic. I haven't done that since I was a kid, and it was beautiful weather. It was very different to today. It was warm, sunny. This was back in the summer, and we sort of stayed in touch. We phoned each other quite a lot, and texted each other, sent each other emails, friends on Facebook, that sort of thing. Now one day I logged into Facebook and I couldn't see her anywhere. I went to her account and I saw she'd unfriended me, and I thought, oh, my first thought was, bloody Facebook. You know, because sometimes this happens, you find yourself unfriended from people, and the Facebook system itself automatically unfriends you. And so I sent her another friend request, and I said, look, I gave her a name, and I said, could you believe it? Bloody Facebook have unfriended us. I'm sorry, I hope you don't think I've unfriended you. No, it's just Facebook doing this. No reply. I waited a bit longer. I sent her another message. I said, hey, is everything all right? Now, there's a little tick saying that she'd seen the message. No reply. I tried phoning her. She didn't pick the phone up. I've not spoken to her since. She unfriended me on Facebook and stopped speaking to me, and I don't know why. I've got no idea why. We weren't a couple. We were just good friends, and I don't think we would ever be a couple. We were just good friends, and we had a lot of time. And I did nothing wrong to her, and she did nothing wrong to me. And I don't know why she's done it. Oh, but it gets worse. Oh, it gets so much worse. And I've not spoken to her to this day. She's not blocked me. I can still see her on Facebook, but she's just refusing. She's refusing to answer any of my messages. She won't speak to me. I got in touch with a mutual friend and I said, look, what's up with this person? And the mutual friend said, oh, don't worry about it. She's just going through a bad phase. I hope I would never do that to anyone. Unfriend them for no reason. Right? This is the modern day truth movement, the people fighting back against the New World Order, supposedly. And then, of course, we come round to the Larry Warren situation. I've done an entire video on that with Larry. It's called Larry Warren in Rendlesham Forest 2017. I'm glad to say that this sordid situation is coming to an end now. And it's ending exactly the way I predicted it would end, with Larry Warren being completely exonerated. But the hate cult, the Larry Warren hate cult, are still out there. They're still ranting on social media. They're still calling me names. They're calling other people names who don't agree with them. They're saying the most horrible things about Larry. They're not going to change their position, no matter what evidence is put in front of them. They will never, ever change their position. These are people who are going to be enemies of mine for the rest of my life, or their lives, whichever is the longest. And what's depressing is the people actually supporting Larry. It's only a very small group of us. There's about four or five people, including me, who are actually supporting Larry, who've looked at this evidence, this alleged evidence against Larry, as I have, and found it to be completely false. It is simply completely false. Every single bit of it is false. It's lies. And look, there's the hate cult. Also, there's a hardcore. There's only 4 of them in the hardcore. I think it's down to 3 now. But they have a whole bunch of people. Now, this is the really sad thing. And I'm going to make another video about Larry when all this is over, because it will be over soon. Within the next few months, it's going to be finished. But what's sad is along with the people supporting Larry, the small group supporting Larry on one side, and the tiny group, the Larry Warren hate cult on the other, is this huge mass of just appeasers. People who go around, they like a couple of comments here and there that the hate cult post because they don't want to be abused. And there's the hangers-on, fellow travellers, just general hangers-on, fence sitters. And there's a vast number of these people, including some people I know, people I like, people I'm fond of, people within our community that I used to be close to. And now that these are people who now hardly speak to me. Not because they've fallen out with me, they just don't dare, because they're terrified that the hate cult will find out. There's one guy who literally is trying to talk to me. They're actually, I mean, what the bloody hell is the point? I mean, if you, these are not very impressive individuals, this Larry Warren hate cult. I won't, I could say an awful lot more about how unimpressive they are, but I would like to ask these fence sitters and hangers on, I'd like to say, look, if you're, what chance do you think you have against the Illuminati, the keepers of the truth embargo, whatever you like to call them, if you're browbeaten into submission by this very small collection of rather unintimidating people? But this, the fact of the matter is, Larry is going to be exonerated. What's going to happen in the next few months? What is going to be exactly as I've always predicted. Larry is going to be completely and utterly found innocent, and the hate cult are going to carry on ranting, and hopefully some of the people within among the fence sitters will realise that that ship is going down and they don't want to be on it. I hope that they will realise that, and they will get off it and they'll just say, look, shut up, Larry Warren's innocent, go and do something else. I hope those people will, but I've got an awful feeling a lot of them won't. A lot of them will just continue to pay lip service to the hate cult, pay tribute to them, so they get left alone, like people used to do to the Vikings. I remember the Vikings used to, when they used to raid people and kill everyone and smash up the houses and drag off the women, they used to sometimes do a deal. They'd say, well, okay, we won't do that to you, but you've got to pay us money. So that they'd have like a treasure chest left out on the beach for them, and the Vikings would pick it up. And as long as that treasure chest was there, the Vikings wouldn't raid the village. That's the situation we're in now. People are paying tribute. They're paying tribute to the. They're paying protection money, essentially, social media protection money, the equivalent of, to the hate cult. Oh, that's okay. I'm going to move on from that now. I'll say more about that perhaps another day. But now we come on to the most recent and relevant reason that I'm feeling a bit downhearted at the moment, and that is that Nick Bostrom, Dr. Nick Bostrom. My recent video I did with him was the one where we're in Newcastle, live in Newcastle. It looks like that's going to be the last one I ever do with him, because we've fallen out. And this is just something that's just, it's really got me down. Falling out with Nick Bostrom has really upset me, because he's one of the people I admired most in the truth movement. He's one of the best people in it, and he's fallen out with me over. Well, I'll just explain. I wouldn't say this publicly if he himself had not made a public statement. He has. This is what Nick Bostrom said. Well, look, I'll give you some background. We got back from Newcastle. I edited and uploaded the video. I didn't edit him selectively or anything like that. What you see is what he said. But what Nick then emailed me, I won't read out his emails because it's private, but I'll just tell you what he was talking about. He emailed me and said, thanks for doing that, but could you please remove the bit where you talk about my the attacks against my character, and also remove the bits where you make a joke about me being a violent Nazi psychopath. And well, I'll just play you the bits that Nick is talking about. Some people had complained that Nick Bostrom was going to be there. They'd probably found out from somebody that he's what a violent, deranged Nazi psychopath he is, and that basically there was a risk that he might try to eat the audience's livers. So for this reason, they were cancelling the event. These are the parts that Nick is talking about that he wanted to remove. And I said, I'm sorry, Nick, I can't do that. Firstly, I didn't think there was really any harm in him. It's very obvious that I'm making a joke, a very innocuous joke. And secondly, in order to make the changes that Nick wanted, that he asked me to make, I would have to delete the video, re-edit it, and re-upload it. And so all the links would go dead and stuff like that. This would really be a problem. It would generate it would be a lot of work for me, and it would mean that people, who posted links wouldn't be able to see it anymore. And then Nick was really angry. When I said that I wouldn't do it, I just said, I'm sorry about that, Nick, I'm not going to do that. I don't believe there's any harm here. And Nick got really angry. He said this. Well, this is the public statement he made. I think it's a shame that Ben Emlyn Jones averred that the initial venue was cancelled because of attacks on Nick's character, quote unquote. He has no grounds for that assertion. Again, I object to him saying somebody has informed them of what an evil, violent, deranged psychopath Nick Bostrom is. I appreciate he thinks this is humorous, but I am not amused. The fact is, he has no idea of what somebody informed whoever. I asked Ben to delete this ASAP. He replied that he could not because he'd already put it up. Again, I don't view this as ethical behaviour. I think this is a shame after we had a pleasant weekend up in Newcastle. This was a public statement he made. He put this on the line. You can read it. It's on. He actually put it as a comment on the Hapanwo TV blog. You could see my reply. I just replied trying to explain things, and I continued. I continued insisting that I wouldn't. I mean, really, after he went he started on me like this, I wouldn't have done it anyway. But I said I wouldn't make the changes needed to the film and re-upload a new ep. He said this, and then well, I won't read. Okay, I'm not going to read out the email that he sent me as a result, but it's much more angry than the first one. He says that I lied. He says I've lied. And he said that. Then he basically went on to say that when I said those things about, I made that joke about him being a violent Nazi, etc. That I didn't mean it humorously at all. I think he's trying to say basically that I actually meant to do him harm with that. I meant to smear his name with that. And then he says that what I said about him was toxic and dreamed up when I said about the comment about on my character. And look, I just said this. This was my reply to him. Hi Nick, I have not lied. I made a statement that I believe is correct. The original venue cancelled you because of an attack on your character and your political beliefs. For practical purposes, the two amount to the same thing in this world, and any separation of meaning is nothing more than a technicality. The joke I made is actually a sarcastic one in support of you that lampoons Antifa, not you. It's such an obvious hyperbole that there's no way anybody could quote it out of context. And I noticed he didn't mention the part where he says about eating livers, because that makes it very obvious. It's a sarcastic joke. I noticed you do not include the liver part. If you did, it would make this even more obvious. Why do you not? I do not believe it's possible that you will suffer any harm as a result of this, not least because it's a joke I have repeated many times in the past, and so far nothing has happened. And this is true. It's a joke I made on the Hapanwo Voice notice, basically the poster for the entire event. The Hapanwo Voice notice, where I told people about it, was up for that joke. That same joke was on it, and it was up for several months before the event. I also repeated it several times on Hapanwo Radio. Am I supposed to go and delete all of that? Where does he go on? Right. I have explained why agreeing to your request would generate a lot of extra work for me at a period in my life when spare time is very short. It would also hamper the film's distribution because shared links would go dead and have to be reshared. View counts would be lost, so reducing visibility on the platform. Viewers who have commented would lose their comments. Seeing as what you are so distressed about is completely inconsequential, I declined your request with apologies. You are being very unreasonable to continue insisting in this way, not to mention descending to the level where you call me a liar and egotistical, which is what he did. I am very sorry that our professional collaboration and personal friendship has to end this way over something so trivial. Despite everything, I wish you all the best from the future. Goodbye. There's nothing else I could do. But I have lost a friend. I've lost someone I really liked. I've lost a man I respected and liked very much, and I collaborated with many times. And I don't know, maybe, is it just me? I mean, would he treat Richard D. Hall like this? Would this happen with Richard D. Hall? I mean, I do wonder, because I mean, he does a lot of videos with Richard as well on Rich Planet, and I just think to myself, well, would he do this with Richard D. Hall? Would he ask Richard to do this thing, and Richard said no? He'd then throw a wobbly the way he did with me. I wonder. I mean, this is uncomfortable, but is there something about me which encourages disrespect? This takes me back to the old Molyneux thing about my confession about people being abused if they're vulnerable, and the person being abused is responsible or accountable for that. And that's a very, very uncomfortable thing to think about, whether Nick actually just did this to me because he thought, well, it's only Ben. I hope not. Now, if this is going to happen, right? If this is going to happen in the truth movement, if we're going to, firstly, you get people like Larry Warren being attacked because he fell out with someone. He was all this against Larry Warren is because he lived with somebody who he was friends with, and then they had a very bitter parting, very acrimonious falling out, and the person, that's Sasha Christie, then starts writing all these things about Larry being a fraud, which all these falsehoods that she essentially made up to try and persuade people that Larry's a fraud. And then we have, like I say, that people are unfriending me on Facebook for no reason. They're just stopping talking to me for no reason. Or reasons that they won't even tell me. They won't even tell me why they're doing it. They just stop replying to my messages. This is someone I took out on the river in Oxford and I had a wonderful day with. And I hope would be a friend in this movement. Who else is this going to happen with? And I mean, you get these things at conferences. It's like I'm organising a conference for next year, and I'm thinking about, well, who can I invite? You always have to draw up a hit list of people. Oh, not a hit list, but you have to draw like a list of people, and you have to check whether they've fallen out or not. And then you have to think, well, maybe it'll be all right, because by the time that this conference comes around, they'll have made up. I mean, because this is what happens. I mean, in the Basis project especially, there's a shifting tide of alliances and divisions that I simply cannot keep up with. I can't keep track. I mean, I sometimes like do things like I'll go to an event and someone will come along and they'll say, oh, did you tell them about this? I don't want them here. And I say, well, I didn't know. I can't keep up with this. And all the time the New World Order is growing. It's getting bigger. It's getting stronger. And this sort of thing is going to give it confidence. It's going to give it strength, because the people who are opposing it are so divided. And quite frankly, they're cowardly. They suck up to bullies just for the sake of a quiet life. And these are the people who are going to have to face up to the bloody Illuminati. These are the people who say they want to face up to the Illuminati. And there are certain people within. I made this point I did a video about shills. It was called the Shill Squad, about all this false shill stuff. There's people within our community who literally do nothing else except infighting. They almost establish themselves for that purpose, and they have websites where they do nothing except criticise other people in the truth movement. That's all they do. I mean, who needs the Illuminati if things are going to be this bad? Who needs them? Who needs the skeptics when we're attacking ourselves so badly? And interestingly, the skeptic movement is very divided as well. We're doing it to ourselves. And so I'm having to face the fact now that maybe we won't stop this New World Order. Maybe in the end the New World Order will succeed. And while so many of us are squabbling over little things about whether someone's a character was assassinated or not, and words and jokes. Well, people are quibbling over these things. The New World Order is gaining strength. I mean, we can't stop it. It's going to be difficult to stop it, even with a united, purposeful, disciplined truth movement. Self-discipline most of all. But with this ragtag, internecine bitch fest that we're at, this bloody mothers' meeting of a truth movement, this fish fight, this barroom brawl that we've turned into. What hope is there? And I'm not going to go along with what some people are saying. Oh, everyone's just a shill anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say that. Most people are not shills. They don't need shills. The Illuminati don't need to put shills in the truth movement. We're destroying it ourselves. No real shill could ever hope to achieve this much discord, this much division, this much internecine hatred. Oh, and the thing is, if all hope is lost, what then? Well, what if I come to the point where I get, as I'm feeling right now, of like, I no longer have Nick Bostrom as a friend and companion and comrade. I'm not going to make any more videos with him, and that's really sad, because we did an awful lot of good. I'm not going to take the ones I've put up I've done already down. I'm not going to take them down. I'm not going to take the radio show. I did a dozen radio shows with him, and they're really good. What the hell are we going to do? Oh dear. What a blooming pickle. Now, I wonder why is it I'm so drawn to the Boudica story? The Boudica rebellion utterly failed. It was a very brave, very dedicated attempt to free Britain from Roman rule 2,000 years ago, and by consequence it means the consequences of that were far greater than even the people involved realised, because the Roman Empire was Illuminati occupied. Britain at the time, before in the Iron Age, was not. So this was a pre-Illuminati society trying to remove an Illuminati occupation government from their country. From this country, the one I'm in now, 2,000 years ago. And if they succeeded, who knows what would have happened in history. Maybe the New World Order would have been stopped right then and there, because obviously Britain was very important to the Romans. The Romans were very important at that time to the Illuminati and the New World Order. And I've done several videos about this. Why am I so drawn to it? Partly because I'm British, and we Brits, we just love heroic losers. This is why the story of Captain Scott of the Antarctic, is also so emotive for us. Captain Scott was the second man to reach he led the second team to reach the South Pole. He was beaten by a Norwegian team led by Roald Amundsen. And on the way back, they died. They died of cold and hunger. And all the men on the team died. And there's a famous film with John Mills all about it, and we just love these people who go up against it and they try so hard and then they fail. But they fail but the effort they put into it and the drive and the very mission itself it has this kind of poignance that appeals to the British spirit, I think. And so it's partly my nationality is why I'm so fond of the Boudica story, but also maybe there's more to it than that. I'm going to play you a little clip now. This is a clip of a lecture by someone called Chris Hedges. Chris Hedges is someone I am I don't agree with most of what he says. He's somebody I actually don't like very much. I think he's not a liar, but he's one of these people who are in denial about 9/11. He's one of these sort of left-wing American journalists who stood up to the war, said the war on terror was such a terrible thing. He was a very harsh critic of the war on terror and the people who supported it, and of course quite rightly, and I think he's quite correct to do so. But then you try to bring up the subject of 9/11, and I've seen there's videos of people doing this. You go up to him and you try to bring the subject of 9/11 about who really did 9/11, and he just rolls his eyes and looks away, and that annoys me. It really does. However, in this lecture, he said something very interesting. Have a listen to this.
To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic, Howard Zinn wrote. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, when people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. This makes resistance a moral and an existential imperative. Resistance entails suffering. It requires self-sacrifice. It accepts that we may be destroyed. It is not rational. It is not about the pursuit of happiness. It is about the pursuit of freedom. Resistance accepts that even if we fail, there is an inner freedom that comes with defiance. And perhaps this is the only freedom and true happiness we will ever know. To resist evil is the highest achievement of human life. It is the supreme act of love. It is to carry the cross, as the theologian James Cone reminds us, and to be acutely aware that what we are carrying is also what we will die upon. Most of those who resist, Sitting Bull, Emma Goldman, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, are defeated, at least in the cold calculation of the powerful. And the final and perhaps most important quality of resistance, as Cone writes, is that it inverts the world's value system. Hope rises up out of defeat. Those who resist stand regardless of the cost with the crucified. This is their magnificence, and it is their power. The seductive inducements to conformity, money, fame, prizes, generous grants, huge book contracts, hefty lecture fees, important academic and political positions, and a public platform are scorned by those who resist. The rebel does not define success the way the elites define success. Those who resist refuse to kneel before the idols of mass culture and the power elites. They are not trying to get rich. They do not want to be part of the inner circle of the powerful. They accept that when you stand with the oppressed, you get treated like the oppressed. The inversion of the world's value system makes freedom possible. Those who resist are free not because they have attained many things or high positions, but because they have so few needs. They sever the shackles used to keep most people in bondage. And this is why the elites fear them. The elites can crush them physically, but they cannot buy them off. The power elites attempt to discredit those who resist. They force them to struggle to make an income. They push them to the margins of society. They write them out of the official narrative. They deny them the symbols of status. They use the compliant liberal class to paint them as unreasonable and utopian. But resistance is not fundamentally political. It is cultural. It is about finding meaning and expression in the transcendent, in the incongruities of life. Music, poetry, theater, and art sustain resistance by giving expression to the nobility of rebellion against overwhelming force, what the ancient Greeks called fortuna, which can never ultimately be overcome. Art celebrates the freedom and dignity of those who defy malignant evil. Victory is not inevitable, or at least not victory as defined by the powerful, yet in every act of rebellion, we are free.
So is that, obviously he's not talking about the movement against the New World Order conspiracy. He doesn't believe there is a New World Order conspiracy, but what he's saying could be, are we in a position where we simply have to be happy to be in the now and simply be happy with the knowledge that we did at least try. At least we put in an effort. And that's all we can do. And it's better to have tried and to have lost than not to have tried. And simply the act of resistance, as I said, just as he said, just simply the act of resisting this in itself, whether you win, whether you lose, is the real freedom. It is the real. It is the actual. It is the actual definition of being free of the New World Order. So we're heroic failures. We're like Boudica, we're like Captain Scott. People will tell stories. Well, the thing is, people won't tell stories about us because when we fail, everybody will be dead, except for the few transhumanist robots who won't be able to think about anything. They won't be able to tell stories because they won't have any memory. They won't be able to speak. They'll just be able to perform menial tasks like robots, because that's all they'll be. And this is the point. I mean, this is why I wish so much that Boudica had won, and I just I get these Boudica moments and they're just sort of like, they almost overwhelm me with the sadness of knowing you can't go back in history and change things, and you can't make things different when they are what they are. And I just wish so much that you could. We deserve to live, to be free of this New World Order. I want us to be people who deserve it, and not these mindless little shattering, backbiting, egotistical, slimy little infighters. I want us to be people who, when we beat the New World Order, will have earned that victory. I want to believe it's possible, and I want to believe we can do it, and I want it to happen. I want to see it happen. Maybe I won't get to see it. Maybe I won't get to see it. Maybe it'll be after I'm dead. Because what's the chances of me surviving either way? You know, when the excrement hits the fan, I'll be one of the first to be picked off. I just want it to be true. I want it to. It's like the Lord of the Rings. I want to just chuck that bloody ring into the volcano and for it all to be over. I wish all the evil in the world really was inside just one little ring like that, and you could just throw it into this pit and it just dissolves. So much has happened that gave me hope. I mean, 2016 was the year of hope. We had Brexit, we had Trump, and then the empire strikes back. We got Macron in France, Merkel was re-elected. We've now got they're umming and ahhing over Brexit. Trump is now in big trouble. He may be impeached. And the nodding dogs of the bloody friggin' mainstream, I almost said sheeple, they're just sleepwalking through it. They don't even notice. And then you get the infight, and then the people who know better, who have been educated, are just infighting. They're continuously infighting. And you get someone like Nick Bostrom, who he knows what's at stake here, and he knows how good I've been to him. I said actually in my email, I mean, has it occurred to him that I have put myself in the firing line with him? What I've done by hosting events with him, by making videos and radio shows with him, I put myself at considerable risk too, because I'm tainted with him. I've been called an anti-Semite. When he was banned from the event in Newcastle, the first event, I was banned with him. And then he turns against me because I won't do what he tells me to do. What he asks me to do because of a technicality. And a relationship, a great friendship comes to an end. A great working partnership comes to an end. Honestly, Nick, does it matter? Does it really matter this much, Nick? Does it really matter so much whether your character was attacked or whether your political ideas were attacked? It's the same bloody thing, and that's why I said it. And you know very well the joke I made is completely and utterly benign. I made it before and you didn't object. What am I supposed to do? Tiptoe round you? No. I'm not going to tiptoe round you. Why should I? Why does this matter so much to you? Why are people willing to do this? Why is somebody willing to... People are willing to sabotage? I mean, the anti-Larry Warren cult will nuke all of ufology. They will carpet bomb it into fragments if only they can destroy Larry Warren. That's all they want to do. That's all they care about. But does it matter to them that this is probably put in disclosure back through, because this is hampering what we're doing. It's actually destroying the purpose of ufology in the beginning, and it's going to delay disclosure. Do they care? We have to save the bloody world, and all they care about is, well, Larry Warren is a fraud, and I'm going to ban. I'm going to get conferences to just ban him. They've actually got me banned. I got banned from a conference. I mean, Tino did a video about that. This is all. I'll talk all about this in my final Larry Warren video when the case is closed. But I got banned from a conference. They harassed a conference in Cambridge so badly that the organisers cancelled it. They harassed the hate cult. They harassed people who'd even bought tickets and said they were going, just because Larry and I were going to be on the stand. Maybe we're doomed. We are simply doomed if this is the people fighting back against the New World Order. Then we're not going to fight back against the New World Order. We've had it. It's all over. It really is. And do you know what the worst thing is? We're not even going to be heroic losers like Boudica was. The majority of us will deserve it. That's the problem. That's the awful thing. We won't be people we can look back at and admire as people who tried and failed, but they tried and they did it with such dignity and heroism and bravery and a desire for virtue. They won't even be able to say that about them. They'll say, I'm afraid I'm going to have to join in with those who say you don't deserve to be free. You deserve the New World Order. Because you've acted like a little Illuminati of your own. That's what's the saddest thing. Okay, look, I'm going to have to apologise. I really am. I won't always be like this, okay? I'm aware. I have the introspection to know that... I have the introspection to know that this is a phase I'm going through. And I won't always feel like this. Probably in a couple of weeks I'll feel better. I'll make another video. I'll watch this video and think, oh, you miserable bastard. For God's sake, perk up. So... I apologise to everyone who, if I've made anyone feel downhearted themselves because of what I've said. Okay, but I wanted to get this off my chest, and I had to say something. When Nick made a public statement, I had to make one too. And it'll pass over. I know it'll pass over. I can see myself, my own feelings from a distance, and I know that it won't always be like this. So please do not give up on my channel, and please do realise I am going to make more cheerful videos in the future. And I hope you like my VidMe uploads, by the way. I think that's another thing that's got me down, actually, losing VidMe, because all this happened at once. I mean, literally soon after, just days after Nick Bostrom and I fell out, then I found out VidMe was going, and that was a downhearted too. But I mean, the videos are all up now on this channel, and hopefully there'll be a replacement for VidMe, and I'll upload videos to there too, and I'll keep you posted. So, as Stefan Molyneux said, time's going to come when we're going to be downhearted. We need to pace ourselves emotionally and not get carried away. And I see what he means, I really do. Thank you very much for watching Herpanwo TV. Hope you enjoy the snow. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity, and yes, stop the New World Order.